Hello, it's Jessica, and today we're going to be discussing the grand jury. So, question one: what role does the grand jury play? A grand jury determines whether or not there is enough evidence to formally charge someone with a felony. So, it's not like a regular jury where they go through a trial and then at the end they determine guilt or innocence. The grand jury is randomly selected, they go through the same process similar to that of a regular jury, a trial jury. Um, but a grand jury can sometimes be specifically chosen. And there's anywhere between 5 to 24 members, with an average around 17. Now, these jury members can conduct their own investigations, independent investigations from that of the prosecutor. And if they find sufficient grounds, they'll issue what is called a true bill, also known as an indictment, according to Pollock, um, which again just says that yes, there is enough evidence that this person can be formally charged. Now, do grand juries violate the constitutional rights of defendants? I believe that legally, the process and presence of a grand jury itself does not violate the Constitution, as it is included specifically and protected under the Fifth Amendment, which does state no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise felonious crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury. So no, it doesn't. The grand jury doesn't violate one's constitutional rights. However, I do believe that a grand jury isn't perfectly fair either in many instances, as it explicitly favors the prosecution. And Pollock also states on page 303 that many legal protections found elsewhere in the criminal court process are not applicable at the grand jury stage. And I feel like with this process, there is plenty of room for reform. And there has been calls for reform that we read in the textbooks as well. Question three: do you feel the prosecution has too much power in the grand jury process? Absolutely. I believe that the prosecution holds too much power, especially in the grand jury process, because during this process, the prosecutor is they are technically meant to serve as a legal advisor to the grand jury. However, it is just a prosecutor's stage. The grand jurors only hear witnesses that prosecutors summon. They only see and listen to evidence that the prosecutors bring, and they are not informed of any evidence that could cause doubt or even show a defendant's innocence. It is stated in our text that the grand jury spends very little time on any and each presented case, with an average of only 5 minutes, and they often may have these decisions that favor the prosecution, oftentimes without even discussing it amongst themselves. So, yes, I would say that the prosecution has extreme amount of power, and again, there is plenty of room for reform to make it something that is more fair, I feel, towards the defendant. Thank you.